Welcome to the Constant Struggle. I'm Nick Watson. She's Brie. Here we go.
Oh, what is this super quick intro pod? It's a fast one today. We're going to get right into it.
Do it. Enjoy it.
This is episode 68 of the Constant Struggle podcast with special guest Sean Browning. We're going to talk about him in a second. A wonderful dude and writer, performer. Just wrote the book I Don't Seem So Bright in a Well-Lit Room. We'll talk about it in a couple seconds. But right now, Nick, what's your update?
I'm editing.
Okay, great. Good.
It's not going well. Great. I hate my writing. Continue. Go for it.
Wonderful. I am, since I stopped doing my 100 days of improv, I feel lonely and alone and useless. That's
awesome.
Where I'm
We're full of struggles.
Let's go. Struggles, yeah. Oh, also the only thing that brings me joy right now is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia bloopers. Okay, that's where I'm at right now as far as the pandemic goes. But luckily, you're about to get some really great insight into your brain about the writing process. If you're interested in writing novels, if you're interested in writing a book, if you're interested in editing, the creative process in general, you're in luck because this episode is going to inspire you and inform you. So here we go. Check it out. Episode 68 with Sean Browning. Enjoy. We are joined today with a great new friend. I've already made that assumption.
Good,
so
yeah,
we'll see
great.
how it works. Sean Browning's here today. He's a writer and performer, sci-fi addict. I've got your bio here, and I don't want to just read it word for word because I feel like that's cheating.
Yeah.
But I think importantly, a writer and performer, a humorist, and a dad. Oh, I like that. This is great. Yes,
that's the big job. That's
all these wonderful things that what I am excited to talk to you about, Sean, is your novel that you wrote. But I also am excited because we did a show once together, and I don't know if you remember.
I do. I was actually just talking to my wife about that before the show, and I wasn't, because it wasn't that long ago, really. It was a couple. I mean, I haven't improvised a lot in the last few years, so it may have been the last time I improvised. So.
Oh man!
But I had a lot of fun. I remember
it was great. It was in the before times, Nick. It was the Ass Face Show, which is a hilarious name for a show. And it was really wacky long form. Oh man, those were good times. But
where was it at?
It was at SoCap. Oh, I missed the
SoCap theater. Yeah, and it had sort of like a bit of a theme of like you were doing like a funny Twilight Zone episode or something. Like it was allowed to go weird, and
they encourage it.
Yeah, and in like kind of supernatural or sci-fi kind of areas, but not necessarily. It was really fun.
It was super fun. What I love about this is that, Sean, you're bringing this improv that Nick gets super annoyed that I bring up all the time.
Oh,
but you've also written a book, which is something that Nick is working towards.
Excellent,
so
excellent.
It really combines both of our. It's like the crossover of the skills of the arts.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
it's a perfect circle Venn diagram.
There it is. Yes, exactly.
Nailed it.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm gonna have to draw one for the episode promo. But anyway, there we go.
Or just post a circle somewhere, Brie.
Or just a bunch of circles. Yeah, I'll put them together. Anyway, we're so happy you're here is what I'm saying.
I'm happy to be here. Very happy.
Yay. So why don't you, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into becoming a performer? Is it something you wanted to do from childhood or
actually, when I was a little kid, I grew up in a small town, small, like 1,200 people, not even a town, it was a village, the village of Madoc, Ontario.
Oh man, that's where you stop on the bus on the way home from Ottawa.
That's right. It's like one of the halfway points, that in Tweed, Ontario.
I've got many sandwiches in Madoc.
Yes. Yeah, and it's probably at the Ace submarine. It's but I was growing up, and most of the kids in that, very were brought up perhaps a little more blue collar, and my dad was a school teacher, so it was a little more white collar, but again, he was like a big sports guy, and I was not. And so I wasn't really good at sports. I wasn't really good at anything, and all the other kids wanted to be like, construction worker, a policeman. I remember one kid's in his thing said dump truck guy, And I always loved that dump truck guy.
Nice.
Who are you? I'm dump truck guy. But I never knew what I wanted to do until one day I was a kid. I was sitting down in front of the TV and the show Soap was on. I don't know if you are familiar with the show Soap. Susan Harris from who created Golden Girls. It was a show that she had before that, and it was a comedy, a half-hour sitcom, but it was a parody of soap operas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Gary Sandling's in it, right?
No. But Billy Crystal got his start on it, and was one of the first gay characters ever on television. Yep. But there's a character actor who was in it who went on to be in Empty Nest named Richard Mulligan. And Richard Mulligan is a character actor. He was in all sorts of different things back then. But he played this character named Burt Campbell, and who was kind of this rubber face, kind of like funny, just goofy, but could do like the serious moments and make you cry when he wanted to. Like, he was really good. He's since passed away of cancer a number of years ago, but I watched him perform, and absolutely, I remember my mom coming in the room and I just pointed at the TV and said, that is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be Richard Mulligan. And which is weird because I kind of followed his career, up until the point that he passed away. And I was obsessed with anything. I was making this joke with my wife the other day that other boys had like pictures of Farrah Fawcett on their wall. I had this old man. And picture Richard Mulligan on my wall.
Man.
From, I think, the movie Teachers.
I went through something similar. For me, it was, all the girls had the Backstreet Boys up in their lockers and stuff, and I had a picture of the Monty Python boys. So.
Yes. Yeah, and Monty Python sort of took that even further for sure, because a friend of mine, his father was from England and had all their albums.
Oh, nice.
So this before we saw any movies or anything, we used to listen to these Python albums and just loved it. And Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like the original series, which is where I fell in love with it, I think, with sci-fi. So
awesome. I love it. So did you, from there, when you pointed to the TV and you're like, this, Mom, did you sign up for, was it the kind of thing where she signed you up for classes or?
No, in fact, no, it was quite the
immediately
opposite.
brought you to a dump truck.
No, they didn't really.
Guy?
They were like, oh, he loves to do his little puppet shows outside. That's fine, but out of old fridge boxes and stuff in the garage, and put on little talent shows and stuff. But no, even when I got up into like grade school, Madoc, not saying anything bad about it, it's a lovely little town, but it didn't really have a huge art scene, especially back then, especially through high school and whatnot. I remember starting a drama club in high school, and it was me, one other boy, and 15 young women.
Yeah, that
and
sounds about.
As soon as girls volleyball started up, it was just me and that other guy.
Oh man.
But no, it wasn't till when I first went to university, my very first year of university, a friend of mine I went to York, and a friend went to York who'd gone to York the year before, was starting a band, and I played mandolin and sang. I'd done a number of musicals and stuff at that point, just like community theater things, but still. And he asked me to start the band with him. So it was me and this other guy and him, and then the other guy brought another guy in and that kind of thing. So we were in this band called Snidely Whiplash, like early 90s. I'm talking like maybe my first year of university, so that would have been 92.
Cool.
What
kind of music were we talking about here?
Like
rock and roll.
We used to play a lot with the Lowest of the Low and a few so it was sort of like Canadiana kind of folk rock kind of vibe.
Nice. Love it.
It was not really up my what I normally listen to, because I'm a total Britpop and new wave guy. But I sang a couple of songs. Anyway, long story short, I got kicked out of that band.
Oh no!
For creative differences.
Oh.
When really it was just, I think, it's just a battle of egos, and I'm not going to get into it, but it was very hurtful, and I actually kind of like closed up for a bit, closed up shop. But then I was kind of like, I miss it, so I started my own band called Schroeder, where I was just the lead singer, and I didn't have to, because I really always had trouble playing and singing at the same time. So I was just focused on singing. And we did we played for a number of years around Toronto. And I was just taking I dropped it off university after my second year and ended up just like bumming around and with some roommates. And
What were you studying at York initially? Like, what was it, theater or?
I was actually a screenwriting major.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
But I was a film major, but screenwriting was the odd thing is at York, I don't know what it's like now, but at the time there were only 3 classes in my major in the school. So there were like 3 screenwriting classes, and then you were like, you're supposed to take all these other classes and film classes. And second year I was just like, I can't be bothered.
Right.
And
Still, it sounds more practical than your film degree, Nick.
Yeah, well, my friend Nick Hessler, he went to York for film and actually
I
made
know
film,
Nick.
as opposed to me, who was like, "Let's go theory." And
Nick, did you hear that? He said he knows Nick Hessler.
oh, seriously? What? No, I missed that part.
I'm pretty sure I know Nick. Yes. I mean, I haven't seen him in 20 years or so, but I do, like, I know that name so well. Yeah, the face is starting to come to me.
Okay.
You gotta get a
and
picture of him
the
up.
fact that your band's called Schroeder, I have a friend called Wes Schroeder, so I was like, wait, do I know this band, or am I just thinking of Wes?
Well, I didn't even mean to do it, but Snidely Whiplash is the name of a Canadian of a cartoon character, right? He was the villain in Dudley Do-Right.
Thank you. I was like, I thought he was the bad guy in some other thing, but yeah, Dudley. Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, the one who used to tie women to trains, and he had the big curly mustache, the top hat, and the cape.
Yes.
And Schroeder was named after the Peanuts character who played the piano. So they were both named
Cool.
after cartoon characters. So I realized that after. I didn't just realize that now. That would be sad, but
I'm trying to look for a photo of Nick Hessler, but I'm not.
Yeah, he hasn't really changed.
Okay.
So yeah, he's like
but that
teaching
doesn't help
video
Sean,
games
does
and
it?
stuff at Sheridan right now.
Oh, okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
well, I kind of got out of the music thing and had always wanted to go to Second City, like take classes at Second City. And I was working in retail at a job I hated, which I worked at for many years. And I met my wife at that time, Kim, and because this will be our 25th wedding anniversary this year.
Aw, congratulations.
Thank you.
Man, 25
And we were together
years.
for a few years before that. Yeah, so I went to Second. The job ended. Like the store closed down, and I ended up getting a severance package, and thought this is the perfect time. I have a little bit of time to do Second City, and fell in love with it, and ended up graduating from the conservatory there. Met my comedy partner Matt Reed. We became Read Along with Browning, and did a lot of sketch shows as a duo. And I totally got out of music. And then just from there, just got into acting, and I worked in casting for many, many years, and still do a little bit. And that's about it. I mean, I think the book was something I've always wanted to do as well. I would even put that before, Richard Mulligan. Like, just in the back of my head, I always loved books, and I always like, oh, can you just imagine seeing your name on one of those spines up there on the shelf, and creating these worlds and stuff like that. And I tried, I'm turning 48 soon, and I've tried for many years to start novels, and finally this one happened. So,
well, yeah. First of all, like, what's the book about?
Well, it is called I Don't Seem So Bright in a Well-Lit Room. Typo. And it's sci-fi comedy.
Okay, cool.
And so I mean, it's been compared to like Hitchhiker's Guide and that kind of thing. And it started out with Matt and I were doing a comedy show, because we used to be the house troupe for like a monthly show, so we had to do 3 sketches every month.
What show was it, if you don't mind I'm gonna jump in, because this
it was called Eclectic Circus, and it used to be at the old Tim Sims theater at Second City. And we did the character night with the Shahori brothers, and they did the sketch. It was a sketch show. And for the first half of the show, we were like the side stage. So we do a sketch while the guest sketches were setting up and whatnot. We sort of got a reputation of being like, a bit crazy and non sequitur, and like a lot of weird stuff. And we were doing this anniversary show, and so for the anniversary they got us to do this where we got a premise from the audience at the beginning of the show, and we had to go out of the theater, like out on the balcony, the smoking balcony at Second City, and write a sketch and perform it at the end of the show based on that suggestion. So Matt and I went out there, and Andrew Alexander, who owns Second City, owned Second City. That's right. He came out and just sat down with us, and we were like,
oh, wow.
And I'd never met him. Matt had, because he'd played piano with Second City, and he had seen us, and he had heard good things and whatnot. So he asked us. He said, "Would you guys be interested in putting like a pilot idea together for a TV show?"
Cool.
And we were like, "Yeah." So what are you gonna say? No. Yeah. So yeah, and we kind of went off, and nothing ever came of it, obviously.
But you wrote it though. I mean,
well, this is just it. Matt and I were like, okay, our comedy really doesn't. We tried, and our comedy really needed to be live. It didn't translate to video at all. So we were like, what else could we do? Something else. And I came up with this idea for the sci-fi show where the two of us play these two bumbling idiot aliens who end up accidentally saving the universe. And I wrote this whole treatment, and I wrote all this other stuff, and it didn't go anywhere. We actually pitched it to to the Comedy Network and Space Network, and nobody knew what to do with it, because I was bound and bent it was going to be an hour-long, like Star Trek show, but funny.
Right.
And nobody could really wrap their brain around that. It's like, I mean, now you see the Orville and it's like, oh yeah. But this was like 15 years ago. So 20 years ago, maybe now. But I always had that stuff. So in all these years, I tried to write the novel, and nothing really ever went past like chapter 3 or chapter 4. And then one day I sat down, and I was writing this other memoir book, which is up on Wattpad, called Winged Migration of the Flightless Bird. And it's a story about me, and it's just me, but it's me dealing with my mental health with this invisible dodo that follows me around. And it's all fantasy. So it's all stuff that I'm dealing with, stuff in my head by traveling through a mountain and meeting a giant, like that kind of thing.
Right.
And one of the chapters I wrote on that, because I was so bound and bent, I really want to do something with these two characters, Pato and I. So I wrote a chapter about them where I met them and realized they were my creation, and it was kind of meta, I don't know. But then I sort of got stuck on chapter 4 again, as I do, and I kind of just went, okay, another stuff happened, and I got torn away from it. And then I was like, screw it, I'm going to write a novel, and I'm just going to use all my notes for the TV show I had. So I pulled all those out and wrote this book. And the title came up. This was actually a tweet, joke that I put out, that I was like, I kind of like that name. I don't seem so bright in a well-lit room. So that's the show was originally called The Adventures of Infamous Pato and I. And Pato and they're both lemurs, but they're not, the characters aren't lemurs, but they're just, I was like, I need names, and I liked these two lemur names, and the idea that they were sort of lesser primates, because they very much are, these two characters. But anyway, so that's where it all came from. And then I started looking at it like it was a job. I had a year where, because I was a stay-at-home dad at the time, and I do auditions from time to time, but I found time every day to go to this one coffee shop on the Danforth, go in, write for 3 hours, have a few cups of coffee, and leave.
Solid. Nice.
And I did that as much as I could, and it took me a year. And a year later, I was like, shit, I have this book.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know you got it published. I know you have a publisher, and the reason I know is because
you showed us your book.
You showed us your book. Well, you could have self-published that. And,
yeah, sure.
And printed it yourself.
For sure.
But PK is the one who told me that you guys share a publisher. Did you originally, were you planning on sending it out to publishers, or did you send it out to publishers, or were you thinking about self-publishing? How were you planning on getting the book out?
Well, that's the tough part. Like I find that I've talked to so many other people who've written books that go through this turmoil of like, do I follow a big publisher or try to get a big publisher, or do I self-publish? or there's this other hybrid in the middle, but that can be very expensive. So you've got big publishing, and big publishing this is all just from my point of view of what I learned. Someone could say I'm completely wrong and off, but I don't know. This is how I see things. The big publishers, they have pros and cons. They both have pros and cons, but the big publishers, one, most of them you need an agent, and so you have to go that search first. It's very hard to find an agent or a publisher, especially in Canada, that does genre stuff. There are some, but as you can imagine, there's quite a few people trying to get seen. So you kind of go through, like my friend Ron Tite, who's wonderful, and he's written stuff. He was great on giving me advice. Now Paul PK, he was on social media putting his stuff out there. So I was like, okay, well, let's I started asking him, like, how do you go about this? How do you get it on there? Like it was Wattpad. How do you get on there? How do you do this, that, and the other?
What can we rewind? What is Wattpad?
Wattpad is a sort of like, I want to say it's kind of like you maybe like Instagram or YouTube, but for books.
Do you get do you pay a little bit per page or something as well for that one? Or nope.
No, you can. I think there are some books on there that, in fact, one of Paul's is a paid book, so he gets some royalties from that, which is great. But it's a very small percentage of the books on there. They had to be like win the Waddy Award and all this other stuff, which he did, because he's got a wonderful book on there. So he gave me the advice, and I went through there, and I had it on there, and suddenly it was getting all sorts of reads, and it was actually getting on like top 10 charts for like it actually made it to like number 1 in action, number 1 in adventure, sci-fi, a WTF, a few other things, and so that got people seeing it. And I was really surprised by this, because I was writing this with adults in mind, thinking, maybe the humor is a little, I don't know, referential, like maybe it's something that is like maybe for an older group. But no, I checked, because you can look at your stats on Wattpad and see what your demographic is. And my biggest demographic are young women between the ages of 18 and 24.
Wow.
The country that's read it the most is the Philippines, which is like,
oh, cool,
the United States after, which is really cool too. Yeah. So he got me started on that, and this guy had read the book, and he was starting a publishing company. And he said, hey, this is the best, this is what I offer. Now, getting back to this, big publishers, you need an agent, it takes a long time. And they own your book, and you get very little off of that. You get very little. They usually give you like a $10,000 advance, and that could take you years to pay off. That'll be the only money you might ever see on your book.
Right.
And then if it doesn't sell well, when that's paid off, they just cancel your book, and they own it still, so you can't do anything with it. I think you can contract it so you take it over again. I don't know how that works, but but it also takes a long time. It can take you years and years and years and years for that to anything to come to fruition. And I sent it off to a few people and didn't hear back. And then there's self-publishing, which most people do through Amazon, works very well, but you get the biggest percentage of your book, but you have to do all the work.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very confusing. And getting it out there for people to see is very difficult. Some people are very successful at it, especially if they have a lot of books, and they sort of built up an audience through social media and this, that, and the other. But I didn't. It's like, what do I do? What do I do? Because once it's self-published, though, big publishers probably aren't going to look at it,
right?
Because they want something that hasn't been. Unless you like sell 10,000 copies, and then they're right there.
Yeah,
right.
And then they'll be there pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Sign here, please. We'll take it. We'll take it from here. Well, this guy offered me. He was starting up the Storywell. David Schmokel. He lives in like Indiana, and he was maybe I shouldn't have said any of that. All these people are going to be like, Dave's going to be like, I keep getting all these phone calls now.
Oh yeah, all 20 of our listeners are going to
be still 20 phone calls is a lot.
That's
of phone
true.
calls.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
We'll tell them to scatter it. Scatter your phone calls, please.
But he's so I was like, because you know, on Facebook or sorry, Wattpad, you do get a lot of offers from like these apps. They're like, yeah, we'll give you like $10 to have your book forever on our thing for free. And you're kind of like, I don't know about this. But so his kind of started out that way, and I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. But I read more, and I was like, actually, this sounds like pretty good. Hey, let's send him a message. So I sent him just like a message and said, sure, why not? Let's talk about this. We Zoomed. We instantly fell in love. He actually, it was really funny because we were very similar people. It was like he was like the American me. It was just like, okay, this is weird. And he was publishing his own book, and he was publishing and he was looking for other books to publish. So he ended up publishing mine. He was looking for other writers, and Paul had helped me out so much with Wattpad, because my book wouldn't have been written if it weren't for Paul. I don't know if he knows that. I think I've told him that, but I'm a pretty sappy guy, so I probably told him that probably a number of times, especially after a few beers. I love you, Paul. But
so strange to hear people calling him Paul.
Oh, PK, yeah. So when I knew that he had one of his books, PK's books, is pretty much owned by Wattpad now, because it's on the paid program. So he can't really mess with that too much. I mean, he still has the rights to it, but I think he can't do both. Or I don't know I don't know how it works, to be honest. But he said, or Dave said, my publisher, and he was like, you know, can you recommend any others that I could look at? And I was like, hey, my friend PK has written a book. He's written a bunch of books. So I hooked them up, and they talked, and he loved PK's book too. So PK's on there now. And there was a young woman from, I believe, I'm going to get this wrong and feel like a schmuck. I think she's in France now, but I don't think she's originally from France. Maybe Romania. Maybe Romania. I don't know.
Well, that's cool though that he's taking on clients from all over, not just from
Canada
and the US.
Yeah, and she had this book called Skylarking in the Fog that I was reading on Wattpad, and I really liked it. So I said, hey, why don't you talk to her too? And he did, cool. Now she's signing on. And my friend Nick DeCroft has written a book that's really fun, and again funny, and kind of a little bit sci-fi, and his book got read by, and it's going on. So I think that's his limit for the year. But I mean, it was like, great, we have a nice little cache of books. Ooh. And he I didn't find this out till later, because I have very low self-esteem, and I do have a number of mental health issues. I suffer from depression, and I have an anxiety disorder that can be quite debilitating, and that was sort of the theme of the book, as I wanted to work that into the story a little bit and make it sort of a little bit more of a thing. Yeah, exactly. And so when he read it, it resonated with him, and I had no idea that he had said he was just going to self-publish his book, but he was looking for a career change, and he works in like video editing and whatnot and filmmaking, and he was actually in a band that was he was the lead singer of a band that was on the American Pie 2 soundtrack.
Oh man.
Jettingham. They had a song called Cheating that was on the soundtrack. Anyway, he was the lead singer of that band, and I had been lead singer of a band, so again, that was another thing we had in common. But I didn't know this, and this, when you have low self-esteem, this is like one of the weird, like I'll probably tear up telling the story. But I found out that he wrote his book and was just going to self-publish it. But he was, as I said, he was looking for a career change, and he said to his wife, he read my book, and he goes, we could finally start the publishing company that I've always wanted to start. And she was like, well, what do you like? Let's this thing. What do you want to do? And he said, well, you know what? Let's look at it this way. I'm going to ask this Sean Browning guy in Toronto if he's interested in me publishing his book. If he says yes, I'm starting a publishing company. And if he says no, I'm just going to self-publish. And I was just like, what? And he goes, yeah, I basically started a publishing company to publish your book.
Oh man.
So, and it's which explains why he gave me such a good deal, like the percentage I'm getting and stuff like that. And I still own the rights. And he's been like, this is all.
How long did that help with your self-esteem? How long did you hang on to that positive moment before you started feeling like a piece of shit again?
Good 12, 13 hours.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's a solid half day of fun.
That's right. Well, I was asleep through most of that, but still, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I'm assuming that I felt good about myself while I was sleeping. I had good dreams that night.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's really sweet. It's like, yeah. It's hard to say much more about that, but that's pretty amazing.
What a wonderful way for human beings to connect too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd never heard about this Wattpad. Nick, are you familiar with Wattpad?
I've heard it just because I listen to like podcasts on self-publishing and stuff, so it comes up every once in a while.
Yeah, there's millions of people on there. It's sort of like
nothing's coming through my mind. It's like Tinder showed up. I'm like, nope, that's not it.
I put
Grindr. That's the.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I've been publishing on Grindr now for a while. It's
Are you getting a good response?
Let's see.
WordPress,
yes. Thank you.
Is it WordPress? Yeah.
Yeah, it is WordPress. So it's sort of down that road, but whereas WordPress goes off into maybe a little more serious, Wattpad kind of turns a little bit more, because Wattpad started as like a fan fiction kind of play thing, site, with a lot of young people writing like anime stuff and
and
like,
just Harry Potter boning.
Yeah.
And like the two brothers from Supernatural making it and stuff. No, I don't know if that's
Step Brothers is like
well, that's but that's how it started, but it became like, I mean, over the years it became quite as I said, there's millions of writers from all over the world on there now. The head office, I think, is in Toronto too, which is kind of nice, but it's a good way to sort of get your book going. If I didn't have it, I don't think I would have finished, because I was publishing my chapters as I went.
So cool. All right.
So it almost became like episodic for people. So they would be waiting for the next episode.
How does that work for editing and stuff? Have you like already made sure that your chapters are like super well edited before you throw them up there, or? As
best as I can, but it's amazing. Like, even when the book came out, we've just done a new edit on the book, because the book comes out and I read it just to see how it felt in my hand reading it, because it's kind of really cool, but and I found all sorts of typos through it. Not a lot, but they were ones that the type that your brain fills in the gap when you're reading, and that's why they don't get noticed.
Yep.
Like a missing letter here, a
stupid efficient brain.
yeah a missing like that kind of thing. But your brain, as you're reading it, just puts it in there when you're zipping through, right? That's why very few people have noticed it. Wattpad is kind of neat, because what I would do is I would write it, and then I would do my first edit, and then I give it to my wife. Kim would do an edit, because she's way better at the sort of like punctuation kind of stuff, like where commas go and that kind of thing.
Sounds like Nick's process up there.
Yeah. And then I would take it back, and then I'd do another go at it for content, and just maybe rearrange a few things. And then I put it up on Wattpad, and as soon as it was up, I'd do another read just to see how it read in that paragraph format, just to see if there's anything else, and do one more edit on that. And then there it is. But people can comment on it as they go. You can comment on a sentence
and do the I see. So it's almost like a Microsoft Word document where you can recommend changes.
So
exactly.
Unlike Twitter, you can go in and edit it afterwards.
Yeah,
I
you
still
can totally
don't know
go
why
in and
Twitter
you
can't-
can go in and edit it afterwards for sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then it
Okay.
publishes it again and puts it out a notice. This chapter's is published again. Like, have another look at it, that kind of thing, which is great
Ooh.
to your followers if you have them. It takes a while to build them up.
This sounds
and
excellent.
That's that really helped me. I was getting a lot of good feedback, and any other typos were caught by readers because they're and not in a jerky way. They were like, because they try to help you.
People trying to help.
Yeah.
Oh, we found this. Just don't know if you noticed it. So you'd fix it and then erase their comment, and then nobody cares. It's like, you don't erase a comment if it's saying, "Hey, I love this part," but you do erase it if you fix it. It doesn't make sense to keep it there anymore, right? Because then someone's just going to be looking for it. And it's like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was that motivated me, and that's why I thank PK so much, because that's why when Dave said, "Hey, we want to have more books on this. Do you know any other good books, say on Wattpad, that I could read and approach the person?" And I was like, "PK,
cool.
Time for a little good payback,
Yeah,
because he helped me out a lot, and he was doing very well on Wattpad too. He's got a lot of readers on Wattpad. So cool. And does very well. But he was, as I said, he's never had Wattpad is just a online, right? So you don't hold the book
physically. Yeah.
They have published about, I think, 10 or 15 they Wattpad press, and they put them in bookstores, but you have to be, and I've noticed a lot of them are very like teen romancy kind of and whatnot. So things that they know are going to sell, right? And they're doing very well. I think one Wattpad author's or at least one has a movie deal now, and
cool.
Her books are being made into a few movies, and they've got millions of readers. So and that was really cool for me too, because I decided not to take it down from Wattpad.
So you're allowed to keep it up there as well as have it published separately.
If from a Wattpad's point of view, if you're not like on their paid program or anything.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just like a regular Joe on there. So I'm fine. It's more like on the other end of it, you have to talk to your publisher and make sure that they are okay with you keeping it on there.
Oh, that's a good point. Nice. Yeah.
And he was totally cool with it, because I can use it to, even though they can read it on there for free, I'm hoping that they read it and go, oh, I want to copy this in my hand.
Yeah. Or even start reading it and decide that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And because I have in there, it's like, if you like this book, please help support me and by buying my book on, Amazon Chapters, Barnes and Noble, wherever you can order books.
Wherever books are sold.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
And the reason I did that, though, was because not just for that reason of maybe getting a few extra people buying the book, but it was because when I looked at those charts and I was talking to a lot of younger people who would send messages and asking for like writing advice, I noticed that a lot of them were coming from countries that don't have access to a lot of like Amazon type of booksellers, or were young and didn't have any money.
Right.
And I didn't want to deny these people that, because it's like, they've been really good to me, and I'm not going to like suddenly go, oh, whoop, no more book.
Right.
You had to pay for it if you want it now. I was like, no. I mean, I got these I've got a lot of young people in the Philippines and a lot of young people in Africa. I became really good friends with a young woman in Nigeria. We've actually Zoomed, and she's really sweet. We just met she wanted to interview me, because she loved the book, not even for anything. She just wanted to ask me some questions, and I was like, awesome. All right, cool. And now we're good friends. Yeah, but they can't. There's not a lot of like ways to get books from other places there, and when they do, they're very expensive. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to take this away from people who help me feel good about myself,
start a career.
Yeah, well,
that's awesome. Oh, that's great.
So that's it.
I was just wondering how you would define your writing, like on the pantser plotter dichotomy, because to me it sounds like if you're doing bits by bits, that sounds like pantser territory. Like you're flying by the seat of your pants, as opposed to you've got the whole outline of your story ready.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually have the way that I write. One, I not half the book. I would say about a third of the book. I had mapped out into episodes for the
That
this
makes
TV
sense.
show. So I kind of had a few notes just to give me some ideas. I had the core group of characters there. And I had a notebook. So but basically what I do is I would say, this is what I need to get out in that chapter to make this for the story. And these are the points that I need to get out in this chapter. And I usually can only get about halfway through them and be like, oh, okay, the chapter, I need to move on to another chapter. So these ones have to go into the next chapter. So, which actually was great because I was like, had too much content instead of not enough.
At which point you're like, well, this story's just writing itself.
And that's what happened. You know what? That's what happened. I got to tell you, part of, the anxiety and everything else is because I'm quite a very emotional person. And I remember I was sitting in the coffee shop one day. This is really funny. And I'm writing the story and see, I even get a little teary thinking of this because this moment was just like such a weird moment. I was writing the story, and one of the characters, who was one of the more lead characters, but she was like a little bit more minor, and I'm writing her, and I wrote her out of the story. She got killed at the end of the chapter, and I didn't know it was coming.
Oh no!
The story just was going there, and that's what happened, and it caught me off so like that. I sat there and I started crying, and I'm sitting there in this coffee shop, like embarrassed, like, and people walking by going, "Is that okay?"
No, he just killed a major character.
And I'm like, no, I'm mourning the death of this character. This is a big deal.
Aww.
And that's, I mean, it is a dark book. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of dark humor in it. So there are a number of like deaths and whatnot that happen haphazardly, but I try to make them fairly light, like, and kind of funny the way they happen. And I'm mostly to characters I've probably just introduced.
Like total red shirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a red shirt situation.
Well, I have I won't give too much away, but the ship that they're flying is powered off the brainwaves of a psycho killer that got trapped in the engine room, and they were able to knock out and attach so it's being powered by the psychotic, like Jason Voorhees type character.
Oh man.
But he's trapped, he can't get out, right? But there is one
just
chapter
make him
where
more frustrated.
Right. So there is one chapter where he gets out. So I just have a chapter that's just introduce a victim, then he kills him. Introduce a victim, then he kills them. Introduce a victim, and it was a lot of fun to write. And I was like, it was very silly. Like, it was gross and whatnot, but it was very funny. And it was like, so I was chuckling away, like killing off this next character that was absolutely ridiculous. Like a guy who ran the underground spaceship parking lot underneath a building. It was obsessed with scolding people. And all he really wanted in his whole life was a small little trophy. And this PR guy who worked up above was coming down to give him that trophy that one day, and that's when he got killed, as well as the guy who gave him the trophy. And I was just like, another guy was an inventor who who invented all these ridiculous things that never got picked up, and he just had finally made the patent on like this thing that was gonna make him rich and so well known, and he was just on the way to the post office to put the thing in the thing, and he gets murdered as well. But he drops it in there. And I was very happy that he got it in there, and then it just ends with and it went off.
And like the Alanis Morissette killer.
Yeah. So, but that was so much fun to like write like that, because somebody just commented on my Wattpad asking me. It was kind of a weird comment, because they were like, "Oh, very interesting prologue," because everything I've heard, prologues are out of style now, and I was just like, all right. Like, what do you want? So it's like, yeah, so have you had an editor tell you that or anything, like maybe you should get rid of? I'm like, yeah, this is why I love working with Dave, for one thing, because I don't have to follow any trends, because I found that one of the problems with me writing any other book was I was thinking about my audience too much. And I wrote this book I was just like, I'm just going to write something stupid that makes me happy in my style, and I'm going to put a prologue on there, and I'm going to write a whole chapter backwards if I want to. I don't care. I didn't, but I was like, I don't care. And that kind of freedom finally made me go, there were no walls. There was just like me, I'm going to write anything that sounded stupid.
Yeah.
And there were jokes in there that I know that I was the only one who ever will laugh at.
I made a comment like that in improv class today. I was like, look, sometimes I'm going to drop a reference about the First World War, and that's just going to be for me, okay? But, you're allowed to do that sometimes.
That's right. Well, I use there's an alarm system that goes off in this, and I keep using this joke over and over again, and finally, one person was like, that's hilarious. And I was like, thank you. One person got it. Every time I mention colors, I always throw in the color puce. But I always say bright, very bright puce.
Is that like a purplish? What's
No,
puce?
it's like that's like saying neon brown. Like puce it can't be a bright color, but I never just write puce. It's always bright puce. And I just thought, I'm giggling away, bright puce. That's stupid. That's so stupid. And yeah, and I'm like, everyone's just reading it going, because I just realized a lot of people know what puce is.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I don't know if I knew what puce was until I wrote this. This isn't me being pretentious. I was just like, that's stupid. If somebody will get it. Somebody
tickle
will get
someone.
It. Yeah. Why not?
I love it.
So yeah, and that's sort of the idea. I wanted to just have like idiot fun, but make it as smart as possible. And just to throw this out there, I wasn't asked, but I'm going to answer anyway. When you write sci-fi comedy, it's immediately going to be compared to Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Immediately. That's it, because it's the best known, right? I mean, there's also Red Dwarf, and there's other ones out there.
I think it's growing. You have like Futurama and Lower Decks. Star Trek is actually really funny as well.
That's right. Yeah.
But those aren't books. That's TV shows.
Yeah, it's TV shows. But you're right. It is sort of.
They could write a book, Brie.
There's more. There's more of that coming out. As much as a compliment as I take it, I think that the difference is that yes, we both have written these books, and I'm not saying that it's that I'm, because I put a lot of sci-fi tropes in there as to pay homage to things, not necessarily to parody them or make fun of them or anything or copy them. But I did put in things that I would make like a little wink to all sorts of different sci-fi things out there. But and I know the humor is very perhaps along the Brit kind of line of absurdity. And it's got sort of, and it's, as I said, it's got the kind of darker stuff in there. But the big Douglas Adams was very well known for being not terribly sentimental. That's the word of it. I even read something where he was like, I don't like to, I think it was during the making, like the movie was being made, and this was before he passed away. And he wanted to keep a lot of the sentimentality out of it. He didn't really go for that space. Sort of teary moments and stuff. And it worked really well for him. He's a genius. But I didn't want to write that book. I wanted to, I mean, as I said, wanted this to deal a lot with sort of mental health issues that I was going through and stuff like that. Because the lead character,
so sentiment would be a good thing to explore then.
Yes. So
human feelings.
So my book is filled with teary moments. And I've got a lot of people who have sort of like, oh, this part made me cry. Oh, this part made me cry. And it was like, because I wanted to sort of set that up. So I love being compared to Douglas Adams, don't get me wrong. But I think if you're going into it thinking, oh, this is going to be like this straightforward, like silly, it is, but it veers off into like heart, yeah, and emotion, because I can't not go in that direction, being the emotional human being that I am. And there was a bunch of moments even in the writing, besides the death of that character, that I had myself tearing up.
Well, that's some pretty powerful stuff. Nick, have you cried while you were writing any of your characters?
I don't really go into the sad bits. So I've done a sci-fi book a while ago, and I'm in book 2 of a trilogy in horror right now. So there's not a lot of time to feel emotion. It's more terrified, and I
Just
have to scare
fear.
myself as
Yeah.
much as I can.
So do you have
Yeah.
problems sleeping ever because you've written something so scary?
I don't think. Yes,
Gotta
I have.
work harder, Nick. Gotta work harder. Oh, you said yes.
No, I have,
Okay.
but it's more like you're trying to figure something out, and you go to bed too wound up.
Right.
But I don't think I've scared myself.
Have you disgusted yourself,
Ooh.
or I've made yourself go, "Oh, why did
What's
I think
wrong?
of that? What's wrong with me?"
Oh, a little bit, yeah. But like, I let Catherine, my wife, read my opening chapter, and she was grossed out by it. I was like, yes, perfect. 'Cause,
Well, that's
like, I
just
have
it, right?
no-
That's just it.
Yeah, I like the idea of somebody when they catch on fire that their fat renders. I mean, that's perfect for a horror book.
That's right. That's what you want. That's what
Yeah,
you're
I
going
like
for.
the sizzling on the wet pavement when the fat drips onto it. That's important to have in your book.
I agree. Yeah, and that's because that, and again, going back to PK, because that's what he writes horror as well. So I don't know how emotional he gets into it. I've just started reading the
Actually,
bits of the one he put out.
if you put emotionality into a horror, it could be way more devastating. Actually,
Yeah,
You know what? You're
more.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Because
So-
when I look at it, when I say I have emotion in my book, it's all sad. It's not. There's no like happy. Well, there's actually some happy emotion. I'm going. Yeah, there was some happy emotions in there. So maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I love it.
well, for me, like the big thing that helped with my writing is understanding story structure. And I was just wondering if you have you had like writerly epiphanies where you're like, I can't write, and all of a sudden you've produced a book.
Yeah.
Have you had that kind of moment? For me, it was just, like, oh, story structure, this has to happen, this has to happen.
Right.
And then it allowed me to get a whole idea down so I knew what to work towards. And I got through the barrier of only being able to get through a chapter or two for a story. And I've been able to do 3 books now. Nothing published, but at least I've written like 3 whole
that's
stories.
a huge accomplishment. I mean, that's the first big accomplishment.
The hurdle,
getting it written. That's the once everything after that is like, okay, that's the meat. So let me see. I would say, yeah, I'm not. I think that the year and a half of screenwriting I did take for a draft 2 actually was quite helpful. So I went into it with sort of like an idea of like, I already know I still like this is going to be a 3-part series as well.
Ooh, can I interrupt and ask, are you still putting up new chapters on, how come I can never remember the name
Wattpad?
of this app?
Wattpad.
Wattpad. Yeah.
I will be. I haven't actually.
Oh, cool.
COVID has sort of slowed me down big time. I don't have any privacy anymore, so which is really hard. And the coffee shop that I wrote in has been closed for a while now. So so it's been really difficult to steal myself away to do, and I haven't really been in the right headspace to do it yet. So I've started chapter 1. And then I know this book is going to be a little bit more difficult because the first book is in this world. The second book is a little bit detached. It's more of a time travel-y kind of thing. And then we go back to the main story for the third book, which is going to be it's going to be easier to write again. But for as far as story structure goes, they had me in screenwriting. One of the big lessons was know your ending before you. I mean, it can always change.
Yeah.
Through the evolution of the book, but I already know my ending. And as I said, it might change, but I know what it is. I know where I'm headed. I know my destination, and everything else is sort of through the episodic. I was like, and I don't know, as I said, story wise, it kind of goes for getting from point A to point B, almost like a road trip kind of thing. Yeah. So it was just sort of adventures along the way. But I think that, once I got into the swing of it, and what made this book different from the other ones, not just because I gave myself some freedom, and I also had this sort of script to go on for the first, third of the book. I think what helped the story stay intact was knowing that ending and was knowing where I was headed. And I sort of wrote instead, because I know where the whole story is going. I didn't know where this book was ending. I sort of just wrote into what I thought was like the good ending that was going to go into something new. but I took that sort of idea of like a movie and went, you know, the Sid Field kind of, you know, you got your first 20 minutes and you have your plot point, then you have your meat, and then you have that other plot point that sends you into the conclusion, that something happens that turns it in a different direction. Big battle at the end kind of thing. It all, you know, sort of builds to that.
Yep.
And kind of went that route, sort of the which is, you know, was fairly easy because of the screenplay, the screenwriting kind of giving me some story structure ideas and whatnot, and plus just
really
reading a lot. I mean, reading and watching movies. I mean, that if you're watching them and not really paying attention, that's one thing. But you know, I've always been like a big fan of like plot heavy movies that you know, you sort of paying attention to those moments that kind of send it in different directions but keep the story rolling. Cool. But I mean, you can go plot heavy or you can go, you know, character heavy. And I think probably I went a little bit more character heavy through the first book, really getting to know the characters really well.
That's cool. I mean, I think that's how Stephen King gets through his stuff. Like, he kind of knows where he wants to go, and then he lets the characters figure it out for him.
Yeah. I don't read Stephen King stuff, but I have read most of On Writing.
There it is.
Yeah, yes. I have the paperback version of it, and it's really good. I highly recommend that to any writer out there who's just looking for some, like, you know, inspiration. It's a really good it's a good read. Yeah,
for me it was Save the Cat, when I was trying to do some screenwriting as well, and it just broke down story structure perfectly, because it allowed me to figure out where to go and not just blow my load really quick.
Right.
Something you don't want to hear your brother say.
Sorry. Story load, and then the story ended.
The sound effects don't help. I wonder if I think so. I just read an improv book called Pirate Robot Ninja, and it sort of breaks down. I should mention who wrote it. Sorry, Will Hines and Billy Merritt. And it sort of breaks down this idea that all improvisers are either a pirate or a robot until you get good enough to be a ninja. And I wonder if that's similar to writing, because if some of them, like you said, Nick, are more planners, are more robotic, are more dependent on having the outline so specific that you know exactly what you're going to write, you know, when you're writing it. So you spend more time on the plan than you do on the actual writing of the book, versus the pirate who's kind of like, all right, let's see what, you know, let's set this up and then see where it takes us, you know?
Right.
Anyway, I guess I'm just realizing that is applicable to all art forms, not just improv.
But you know what? Probably my improv did help with the book too, because I really I used to teach improv and did it for many years. I had the Late Horror Show, which was like a weekly like midnight like B-movie parody long form that we did when it was at the old Bad Dog. I did it for 6 years almost. We'd take like the Christmas holidays off, and that was about it. And I found that I got to a point, especially with that show, where I really enjoyed being sort of painting myself into a corner, just to see how ridiculous I could get out of it.
Yeah.
And I found that when I was writing the book, I did the same thing. I would purposefully, if I was, especially a little bit of writer's block, because you don't need to keep it necessarily, but I find that let me write myself into a corner and then try to write myself out of it using as much as ridiculous as I want to go. And sometimes it wouldn't come to me like sitting down writing, but I'd have like in my notebook, I'd start scribbling just, you know, top of my head kind of things, and just like, how would they get out of this situation with, you know, how, and something, and usually it'd be something ridiculous, and you know, like it didn't make a heck of a lot of sense.
Oh, man,
some crazy justification, exactly. But I think that sort of dictated where a lot of the book went, for sure.
That's very cool.
And I find that it also helps to, and I know you probably do this as well, Nick, when you're writing, it's good to put yourself into your leads,
Yeah.
to give yourself, so to make it a little more real.
Yeah.
Now my lead leads Pato and I. Pato is he's called a quarrel. He's this type of alien that basically lived on this sort of forest planet, but they were all like intellectuals and whatnot. He was an albino of his species, and which was revered on his planet. And but something happened to him, and we're not quite sure. We're sort of figuring, playing with that and finding out what exactly it was, because when the book starts, he's on a prison planet, where he's a prisoner, and he is an idiot, and he can't remember what happened yesterday. But he's such this lovely, like goofy, like, oh, he's just so happy about everything kind of character, and he finds like something good to say about everybody, to the point that it's kind of even annoys people. But he can't remember anything, so he's just like, it's like do you know how to pilot a ship? I don't know, probably. He just doesn't, I don't know, let's find out, that kind of thing. And I really based that character on myself, or how I see myself. I, on the other hand, is this sort of, character is a bit, he's the character that I needed to grow. So I is sort of a little more about kind of sleazy, kind of like drinks too much and can't hold down a job, and he's just like, he's unlikable, and he's he's kind of
so the person you would like to be, basically.
It's that's
okay, sorry.
Close. You're close, though. It's the person who I fear I am. That I fear that this is how people see me. Whereas Pato is actually how I see myself, as this sort of lovable idiot. So but I also needed to the I character to grow. Like, he starts off as that, but he's learning. And I was really interesting, because when other people read your book, and I got a review from my friend Jason Gemmel, who's an improviser as well, and he wrote it, and he noticed something I'd never seen, that there's a theme of loneliness in the book, that every character in the book, for whatever reason, is dealing with loneliness. Even when they're with other people, there's this feeling of not being belonging to anything, and not being
people are identifying with that right now.
Well, that's just it. I'm having, especially, this is why I have so many like young women, especially between the ages of 18 and 20, well, probably the ages of 14 and 24, reading the book, and it's resonating with them
in general, not just because of COVID, but yeah.
And I say into it, like, in the foreword for the hardcover that's coming out, I said, I'm saying this book was written for you because you're an alien, and so am I. Or at least that's the way we feel. We feel like you picked this book up because the stupid title made you go, and if you feel anything from this book, it's because you're an outsider, and you're dealing with that. And we all are, and we're all aliens, and we're all like, we all have to deal with that. And the whole theme of this, I saw the theme of the book, and it's summed up in one line, which is that Pato, throughout the book, actually ends up really affecting a lot of people in really good ways. And right before the event at the end, each of these characters who sort of like pushed him around and whatnot, and kind of like, whatever, you crazy idiot, kind of tossed him aside, realized he did when they had to part with him. And it was just like this moment of like, and the line came out that, again, I cried when I wrote this, which is fools. Let's see if I can remember. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was basically fools have a lot more to give than we let them, especially when we don't treat them like they're fools, because he very much is the fool. And it's sort of like Lord of the Rings having like heroes come in all sizes kind of thing. Mine is like heroes come in all intelligences too. And just because you're an idiot and you're slower than everybody else, and you can't make things work, and you don't have focus, or you go through anxiety and depression, you can still be the hero of the story. So I don't know if that's that really cheesy. That might be a little cheesy.
I love it. I like that. I like that a lot.
Makes perfect sense for your demographic as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're a teenager, you're like, you don't feel like you belong, and you feel like
But
you're
more specifically, you're a teenager on Wattpad. Like,
well, yeah,
you're gonna be leaning this way.
yeah. I mean, you have a huge community that you don't even realize with anime and whatnot. It's a huge community, but you still go to high school every day, and even though you have like millions of people behind you when it comes to like anime and your
They're not at your high school.
You go to high school, and how is it that the jocks who are still ruling the roost, and it's like, and treating you like garbage, and it's like, where they don't have that, they don't go online and have like that same community.
No.
I mean, maybe they do, I don't know.
No.
I have no idea. I've never been a jock, and
It's good. I'm raising one of each, which has been really interesting, because I've got my daughter who's very writerly, and my son who's a mega jock. And so
good.
It's been a fun ride.
I got three nerds, which is great. Well, my youngest, Darwin, she's the more likely to exercise. She likes to play in the park and stuff like that. Griffin, Lily are more
intellectual. Not
well, I don't even know if that's it.
interior.
Bookie.
They both have their points. Lily's like a little, she's the artist, and Griffin's more the engineer. He loves the maths and that kind of thing, and she loves the arts, and she goes to an art high school, and she's just loving it. And that was that's not related, or maybe related, I'm not saying, but it was very important also. And I think in sci-fi we have this responsibility to put in, and I hate when I see like Star Trek and all these people complaining about, oh, that episode was too woke. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is sci-fi. That's what sci-fi is.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I'm not saying that my book is woke or anything like that, but I did really want to, I have a lot of same-sex relationships that I just wanted to mix in and just not ever acknowledge them.
Yeah.
That's different.
It's yeah. Well, I wanted to make, like, I'm a huge LGBTQ plus supporter and ally. I have folks in my family, lots of friends. I'm not even gonna go into myself too much about it, but I don't know if we all go one way or the other. I think there's a lot of gray area there, but
the spectrum.
That's right. So I think that I wanted to just normalize it. I'm not going to make a big deal of it. I do have one character who wants to be this huge muscle intergalactic janitor, and he's like, he really wants to be a woman, and I really wanted to bring that out and it's sort of played as kind of a little bit funny at the top, but I don't really want to, not making fun of it at all. I really wanted to show that how difficult it is for people who are, especially this huge stature, and he hates the fact that he hates his body, because even these people with all these muscles are like not necessarily happy, right? And then I wanted to bring it out at the end. And so I bring him out at the end, and I'm just like, he finally comes out to his this little asshole that he travels with, and the asshole's like, I don't care. See, because I just wanted to sort of, as I said, normalize it and just go, these are my people, these are my friends, these are my families. This is this needs to be, I don't want it all. And the other thing comes out, it's like when you write and you go like, oh my God, did I do this completely from a white perspective? I don't want that either. But then I realized, I read it and I went, there's not that. Most of these people are aliens.
Right. Like,
and besides Pato, who's an albino, I don't really talk about the color of anybody.
Yeah.
I think there's one species that are lilac colored.
That sounds lovely. Especially if they smell that way too.
Yeah. But this is I think, as I said, it's sci-fi. I think that's been the role of sci-fi.
Absolutely.
It's been, it teaches us like either what not to do, or how to do things, or like it's usually some sort of comment on society.
Yeah.
And we should play with that. And I think we do, even if it's just like light and it's just sort of like subtle. It's good that it's in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we got to travel. If we want to head towards a utopia, this is a good way to learning our lessons from people who have done it wrong. Yeah. It's not hard. It helps a lot. Anyway, sorry. I think I'm watching Space 1999 on Amazon right now, Amazon Prime. The first season is up there. So 1975, and that might be the first sci-fi I've ever watched that really doesn't have any lessons to teach.
Oh,
It's still fun. It's still fun, and it's the science behind it is ridiculous. They're on their spaceship. Their spaceship is basically a moon base.
Okay.
They were all working on a moon base, and then some explosions happened on the moon base, which send the moon hurtling into space. So now they're just living on the moon it's like they're on a spaceship they can't steer.
What is it called?
Space 1999.
Okay.
The funny thing is first of all, you go, how much? If there was enough explosion to make the moon go off into space, wouldn't that be the same to like destroy the moon? Yeah. And not only that, but it would affect the Earth in
the rest of the
catastrophic ways. And all they say, I think, at the first episode was, "Oh yeah, there was an earthquake in Europe," something like that. It was what? That's it.
That's probably all that would happen.
No floods. It's like, there's an earthquake in Europe and East Asia. I don't know.
It hit Russia. No one cared.
They're fine. They're fine. That's how science worked in 1975.
Those are the days.
And a young Martin Landau.
Ooh.
Actually, I say young. He was my age. He was actually 47 when he made this show.
Martin Landau was never young.
Yeah, I know, it's really weird. And you know what? He sounds like he talks really fast like this, and he sounds like Fred Armisen. And I'm like,
oh wow.
I had no idea that, because I only know him as an old
show.
man. I only know him as an old man, and to see him play this 47-year-old with dark hair and everything, he just comes across that way, and he talks really fast. So he really reminds me of that. And I was like, this is Fred Armisen could play this in like the movie, which is Fred Armisen is actually on
the moon base show.
The moon base show. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was inspired by.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I went off topic there. You can.
No, I love it. I love this tangent.
No one needs to know my opinion about Space 1999, a show that
everybody does.
A show that never really caught on.
Fun. We're gonna move into the our more emotional part of the podcast.
I'm sure it'll be mine too.
Yeah, good. Well, you mentioned mental health, and I guess the pandemic restricting your sort of ability to go out and get work done. Besides that, or even diving into that a little bit, what kind of struggles have you encountered as a writer and comedian and voice artist and all of these things that combined are your career?
Well, I many years ago, when my youngest daughter was like one, I guess it was one, because my wife when she went back to work from maternity leave, I was working in casting, and I actually realized to put 3 kids into daycare at that time would have cost me $1.50 an hour to work. So, and my wife had a better paying job, as she always has, because I've always been in the arts, and she had the benefits. So it was more important that she kept. So I quit my job and I stayed home, and I became a stay-at-home dad. And I did that for many years. And once they were all in school, I started feeling the emptiness of okay, when they're in school, and I was auditioning still, but for acting roles and stuff. But I think that really hit my self-esteem and my and not because I don't think that men shouldn't be stay-at-home dads. In fact, I'm wholly full for it. I think it's important, and I think that I've done pretty well, and I think that I've would never trade that time for anything with my kids. I've always been, my wife and I've always sort of been the reverse of like the nuclear family, the 1950s thing. My wife has always been the one to get power tools for Christmas and the one that gets cooking utensils. She knows how to, she renovated the basement while I was, making dinner and with the kids upstairs. So it's like, and that's just the way it's always been. But you do still get this feeling of sort of that this isn't, and it's programmed into us very young. So my dad worked, and my mom worked as well, but my dad had the career. He was a teacher. My mom worked in stores and stuff like that. And she would take she worked part-time when we were little and stuff like that. So it wasn't, but dad was like the breadwinner and mom was the homemaker, and that was the way it was. Didn't really think too much about it. They didn't seem to complain about it. Dad wasn't useless when it came to home stuff, and mom wasn't. Mom was, was smart, so I mean, it's not like they had any issues that were. I wasn't raised in like a machismo house or anything. Is what I'm saying.
It wasn't like slammed in your face.
No, yeah, exactly. Dad wasn't exactly, super like manly man. He was a skinny small town school teacher with, who liked sports, but he was more of the coach than the player. He was more ran the hockey pool in town than play hockey.
Right.
But I had that ingrained. So I think I went through sort of a huge sort of depression going through that, where I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I had a place in the world. I felt like here I was, this actor who wasn't successful. I was this writer who couldn't write anything. I was this, wasn't getting any work, the odd commercial here and there, and that was about it. I was improvising, but that didn't pay anything, and I was, I had a good reputation there in live comedy, but that, again, your audience is this group in Toronto, it's like, that's it. It's not, never really reaches outside of that. And my wife was working hard, and she was, she had to travel an hour and a half to get to work, an hour and a half home on the subway. And though she always had dinner on the table ready for her when she got home, I really felt like she was doing all this and I really wasn't doing anything. I didn't put any value on myself. And I can totally see how, back before, when it was a little bit more of that 50s mentality, how women suffered through this as well. And I'm like, oh God, it's so horrible that you really need to, I think society really needs to put more of a pat on the back to people who do this, and not make them feel like shit, because that's what happened. I felt like shit all the time, because I would be at like a barbecue or a family gathering, and an uncle would come up and say, so what are you doing these days? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Now I get to feel useless for the next half hour, that I'm not contributing to my family or society, blah blah blah,
literally feeding your children.
And I'm raising them and making good people. And so that really kind of bore in, and I'm not gonna lie, when I go to like, I was like, I need to get out, especially when they were little. There were mommy groups that they meet and have coffee, and I did one once, and I literally felt like a leper. And it wasn't their fault. I mean, they're just like, they're talking about mom stuff, like breastfeeding and stuff, and I'm sitting there going,
don't get me started about my nipples.
I'm like, I don't really have much to contribute. And I would find that if I went to the park with my kid, they'd be off playing, and if I was sitting on the park bench, every time a new parent came into the park with their kid, I'd have to shout out to Darwin, like, Darwin, are you okay? Do you need a drink?
Not a pervert. I'm here with
and
that
was it. That's why I did it. I was like, it was my way of just communicating to them that I wasn't just some creepy guy sitting on a bench watching children play.
Yeah. You need a dad t-shirt, basically.
Yeah, no mom ever had to deal with that. They have a whole other thing to deal with, so don't get me wrong.
You guys, I go to parks all the time and nobody asks me anything.
Where's your child, young lady?
But at the same time, as I said, I'm not saying men have it worse, because we definitely don't. I would never say that it's just, but this is how it affected me personally.
Of course.
So I think that when COVID hit, my book was just sort of going through the process. I don't know. I'm trying to think of when that came out. It was so
that was still quite recent, or it is.
Yeah, this came out in December, but the process started before that. I think I was still doing auditions and writing on Wattpad, and I think I'd finished the book, but now I was in that no man's land of what do I do with it. And I've happily found that weird happy medium between big publishing and publishing myself, which is usually hybrid, and hybrid is a very scary thing, because it can be good, but you can get ripped off really easily. It's basically a publishing company that makes you pay for everything. But it's easier to get into, right? Because you can buy your way in and say, I want to publish my book, and they'll help you, but for a fee.
Right.
But anyway, getting back to where was I? So I was, but this was stressful. I mean, and I had just had a couple years ago a really good run of, like, I got a I was some voices and mocap in a video game. I was
Cool.
in Assassin's Creed.
Oh, cool.
That's a big one.
Odyssey, yeah. I'm Nikki's. I think I have like the first line in the whole game that's not like this, the narrator. Just in the opening scene. But anyway, and I play other characters throughout it, and this was a really big deal. I thought this was going to start a new career, and I never heard back from them again after that. So I was like, okay. Other people were like, "Oh, once you're in, you're in." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I impressed them too much." Which again, self-esteem.
Even a question of like, yeah, is it even a question of impressing, or is it a question of like, I don't know, everything went to hell because of COVID?
Well, no, because this is still a few years ago, so I'm just still leading up to it because it takes me forever to tell any story.
No,
and you're
I like
regret having me on here. It's gonna take you so much editing.
Easy. No, I'm just gonna like click and then let it go.
This is like a 4-hour podcast. So but I found the first thing that happened when COVID and everything shut down was, one, it didn't affect me very much at all.
Right.
But like, I mean, my schedule, because I was, but we decided to keep the kids home for online. Well, everybody was kept that first bit. Everybody was kept online.
Might be more alike than you guys.
Yeah,
our guys are probably living a similar life too.
Yeah. Well, and so but my wife, who had been working at the same company, office manufacturing company, but she worked in like the offices, like everything from data entry to like, I don't know. To me, it was like one of those Chandler Bing jobs that she goes off to an office and I don't really know what she does. But she, I mean, don't get me wrong. I did pay attention when she'd explain it to me. I wasn't like, I don't care what she does. It wasn't like that. I just didn't understand a lot of it. Because I am my character. I don't understand a lot of things. But she got laid off after 20. She worked there for almost 24 years. Just over 23. And that was hard because it was like, okay, she's on like, I mean, she's getting this 23 years. She got offered a severance package. It wasn't great. So we had to get a lawyer involved and all that kind of stuff. Cool. But she still has this severance. But, you know, she has to she's finding it, having to do a resume for the first time in like 25 years, all this stuff. She just turned 50 and she's like, now she's like, like I have to like recreate myself at 50 during a pandemic.
Yep.
And so that's added a huge amount of stress, but that's made, you know, not to make it all about me, because I'm totally understanding what she's going through, but how it's affected
Sean,
me.
We're not interviewing her right now.
Screw her. She has her moment in the sun. Sorry. That's funny. So I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about her, and I'm still sort of trying to do this, but I know if I go full job, one, I'm not qualified to do anything, and two, so my resume would, I was in a video game, hire me for your greeter at Walmart, because that's pretty much all I can do. I can talk. And thank you. I don't know how to take that. Well, I can talk. We found that out. But that kind of put me more in a downward spiral, because now I felt even more useless. Because now she comes in, and she sort of just, her nature likes to be busy and stuff, sort of took over helping the kids with their homework. She took over getting them breakfast and stuff, which I always did, and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, because I'm dealing with a lot of stuff right now. So I'm sort of, and now I'm sitting down trying to start the next novel, and I feel, like I said, my self-esteem is already really low. So it's been really, it just got lower and lower and lower, and to the point where for like a couple months it was really hard to climb out of it and get started again. And then the book came out, and that helped, but again, it's been like, it's still to this day, it's really difficult. She hasn't found anything yet.
Right.
She will. I know she will.
Yeah, we're still in the thick of it. You know?
Yeah, she will. But there's that stress of like, you know, we've never been like a big money making machine kind of family, and it's never really we've never really cared about it, to be honest.
Right.
I see people in these huge houses and I'm like, why do you need that much room? I'm like more of a hobbit. I'm like, I like my cozy little spaces. I don't need
I
to.
keep
I watch
wondering, like, where do you work and how do I get in on that? Give me a piece of that action.
So anyway, so we've been just living off her severance, and I've gotten a few little things, but nothing major.
Right.
Again, so I don't feel like I still don't feel like I'm contributing. I still look at now she's the one looking for work, and I'm like, well, why aren't you looking for work? Why is it on her?
Right.
And it being because she will get the better job, for one. Two, I will never finish book 2 if I start working full time.
Yeah. That's the thing as an artist too, right? Is it, you've got to value the work that you're doing and even the process of it, even if in these moments, you're not getting an hourly wage like somebody else would. You know, that's, I don't know. That's one of the hard things about. I've had to like give myself a timer for like when I'm writing just emails, just when I'm doing like my at-home work to make it feel like it's work, even though I'm not getting paid, to do it because I know I'm an improviser.
Right.
Like teaching improv, sure, that I get, that's a job, but like, planning shows and putting on, in your case, planning your next novel and, even just sitting down to write, sometimes it feels like, oh, well, this isn't work, until it's done and until I can sell it. But it's still, you still have to put in the hours, and that's, I don't know. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say it's still work. You're still working, right?
You're still working, but it kind of feels like for now, it kind of feels like you're just kind of working and then throwing it into this bottomless pit, this empty hole that is like, don't know where it's going, it's not landing anywhere.
It's the problem with anyone who does like creative stuff. Like whenever you look at, well, what do you do when society's in trouble or in the apocalypse? Like, oh, what can you do? Well, I'm a doctor, or I can, grow corn. I can write a joke.
Yeah.
like you feel useless. And we're kind of going through an apocalyptic moment with the stupid pandemic right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I think what we're finding is entertainment is helping a lot of people to get by.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah, we have this. Great. I mean, I can't imagine going through what we're going through and not having this Zoom and these other things like Zoom that are like these FaceTime things. Like it saved my sanity. I host a Thursday night pub night.
Ooh.
Like every Thursday night I host this pub night. It's sort of like it started through SoCap.
Okay.
And Ralph McLeod started it, and then he handed it off to me, and now I host it. And I don't know what I'd do without it. It's like I got a core group of people that are there every week. There's a game room where they go play Jackbox.
I've heard of Jackbox and have not played Jackbox.
You would love it. Improvisers love this.
I know, that's why I'm
so
scared
fun.
about it. I'm like, I'm worried it's like one of these things that'll trap me, and then I won't leave the
Well, it's fun. I mean, you come in.
days.
No, it's a good way to it's good to sort of, relax, just have these people to talk to. We're all going through the same thing. Everybody's sort of like, we don't have any right wing crazies in there.
Good. Good point.
There's no, I don't know if should I say that? You have a lot of right wing.
We have no right wingers on this show. No. We ask them to leave if they ever show up.
We find out mid interview that they voted for the Blues. Blues? Whoever calls them the Blues? Nobody.
The Blues? Yeah. I guess that's what we call them. This has really helped. And I want to say though, despite what I've just said about my self-esteem and my mental health, I'm also, it's important, and I think it's important for all of us to really be grateful for what we do have, because this has really made me go, as much as useless as I feel, and I feel like a useless human being, like all the time, but at the same time I still wake up every morning and go, I have a house. Like, it's not a big house, it's not much bigger than some people's apartments, but it's a house. I may have 5 people fighting over one bathroom, but I got a bathroom. I have a fridge that's full of food.
You're people's dad. That's huge.
I'm people's dad.
You got people in there who care about you.
and I'm not. And we at least have Kim's severance. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't have that. So I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful, and though these are all like problems of what's the word, privilege. Yeah, it's and I totally no, it's not. Yeah, privilege is the word, but what's the other one? Why can I never remember this word? My wife makes fun of me because I'm always like encouragement, because I always want to say encouragement, which is a total opposite word. When you feel like you are owed something.
Oh, entitlement.
Oh,
Entitlement. Why can't I ever think?
Because
I
you're
don't
a white
know what
man and
I
you
have
don't
these
have to
certain
worry
words.
about it.
I have these certain words that don't go in, and I can't, and I go and I get stuck on them every time.
Whatever this app is that you keep
Wattpad. That took me a while too. We have in our by our dining table, we have one of those buffets, a buffet, and I can never remember. I keep calling it duvet. I keep calling it. I'm like, it's on the duvet on your bed. No, on the bench, the table thing with the mirror.
I confused duvet and what's the bed that folds out, or the couch that folds out into a bed?
God, this is brutal.
Hideaway?
No.
Here we go. We're terrible.
This is terrible.
We are.
Dude,
this is the whole show should just be this.
Whatever.
What do you call it when you?
It doesn't even matter.
Not a Murphy bed. No,
it's not a day bed either.
No,
Nick, you have one outside.
I know. I could look at it right now, and I forgot what it's
help?
called right
Does
now
it
because
help?
you're asking me about it.
Oh boy.
A bed couch.
God damn it.
Hideaway. No, it's
futon.
Bed couch.
Futon.
Oh, futon. I didn't know that was where you were going. I thought you meant the one you glunk out. Where you break your spine on it.
I suppose that's No, just the ones that you slide into.
Yeah, the futons. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I have an entitlement, and I don't. Maybe that just shows my entitlement that I can't remember this word. But it's just because it always gets replaced by other words that are like it. And then I can't find it again.
It goes away and it hides.
Yeah, but not duvet. See, I lost
futon,
it again.
There it is. Yeah. Futon.
Buffet.
Oh, buffet.
Which is weird because it's like, hey, do you want to go to that restaurant that's a buffet? I can remember
the
that
Chinese
way.
duvet.
I can remember it that way,
Oh
but I
my
can't
God.
remember it as a piece of furniture.
Yeah, I think that's the piece of furniture's fault for not being descript enough as a piece of furniture.
That's right.
Or serving unlimited food.
Yeah, maybe if you imagine there's food in it constantly, maybe then it'll be easier to remember its name.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I mean, it sounds like those are some real struggles that you're in the middle of. And I don't know. I don't, because sometimes it's like, we had a Ryan Dillon on recently who was stand-up comic, and he was like, well, I was miserable and then I ran 100 kilometers, and I feel like it's not always as easy as running a bunch of kilometers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a process, and it's and
people are getting tired and exhausted and looking for a bit of normalcy, and I mean, like Nick, you said your kids are at home. It's hard teaching them, it's hard helping them, it's hard. I've been keeping up with the teachers, but like my son is having a real hard time keeping up with projects to hand in. He's just not motivated. My teenage daughter Lily is she's not, like, she's finding depression is hitting her in weird ways where she doesn't seem depressed, but she's just has no sort of drive. And it affects me too, because I'm like, as I feel like I there's more I can be doing to sort of to help them out, but at the same time giving them their space is I'm so glad this didn't happen when I was a teenager, because we didn't have Discord and all these other ways of chatting with your friends. You just had a telephone.
It would have been brutal. We would have to do all our lessons and mail it in and crap like that. It would have been shit.
Well, I don't think we would. Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to do the online. They would have had to just say, well, I guess you're not taking grade 11. But or you do it next year. But there's the other, and this is also a thing. You mentioned the running and stuff like that. I love hearing the stories of some people going, oh, I turned it around and I suddenly got motivated, because that's been my biggest problem, is I just can't feel motivation.
Yeah.
I have one little thing I have to do, and I literally will put it off, and I can't, and I just want to lie in bed, and I'm like, my neck hurts from lying down so much because I'm just feeling useless.
Right.
And you just lie there and just feel gross. And so I've been going out to Taylor Creek and going for walks as much as we can, my wife and I, which I'm really going to miss when she goes back, because I wish we could win the lottery just so she didn't have to go back to work.
Right. Yeah.
But I've always said, if I won the lottery, all I'd want to do, and this is just because where my brain is, and I would just put it in the bank and just live my life exactly how it is now, but without the worry.
Yeah. That sounds
Instead
good.
of being behind on all my bills and worried all the time.
No kidding.
Because other than that, I have a good life, I think. But I have gained, I lost 60 pounds before all this happened. I did keto.
Oh, I found them.
Yeah. Well, I've gained
did
40
keto?
back.
That's what happens with
Okay,
keto.
sorry.
Keto's scary like that.
Well, it's the problem is that I was doing keto, and I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I didn't do like the serious, like, making sure I was eating this much fat and everything. I was like, no, I don't want a lot of fat either. So I kept the fat just normal. All I did was basically take sugar out of the equation, and
Nick did the
and
same thing.
wheat.
You guys are living
Yeah,
like
I got rid of
parallel
carbs.
lives.
Yeah. Or just brought the carbs way down, because I think there's carbs in everything, but brought them
Then
way
you
down.
notice how friggin' awesome carbs are.
Yeah, they're awesome. I like them more
Carbs
than
are
sugar
the
now. I
best.
think.
Like,
Piece of
not
bread
even
is
a
so
joke.
easy. They're so convenient.
and then when you realize that beer is a carb too, I mean, like, well, I'm screwed then, because I'm not giving this up.
No, I still drank, like, because there's like low carb beers and stuff like that. So I was still doing that, or low sugar wines. But I also found that that when this all started, I was like, okay, I kind of started cheating just a little bit by just potato chips at night. That's it. But I still don't eat sugar.
Dude, I
still don't eat wheat.
When this kicked off, I started eating Doritos for breakfast.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. All I did was add potato chips at night. Not a lot, but I just have like some potato chips at night, or maybe some popcorn. And I added a few more beers, maybe a little bit more than a few, and 40 pounds.
Wow.
It's like, how can I mean, it sucks. I'm like, how slow is my metabolism that I actually gained 40 pounds still not eating sugar or wheat or carbs. I mean, besides the potato chips, which have carbs, I know. But at the same time, I'm still not eating gluten. I'm still not, I'm like, this isn't fair.
It's like
my
our
old man
bodies are
body
trying to like protect us from what's happening out
Yeah,
there.
by making it, and it's like, but then you do your auditions now, and it's like, I can't wear that shirt. That one won't do up properly.
Luckily, they don't have to see from the waist down, right?
Yeah, it's like every time I see myself in profile on camera, like my whole body, all I think is like, I look like a bowling pin. Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, Nick, I don't know what to say to that. It's fun and self-deprecating, but it's also like, I don't know, we're going through some shit here.
Well, I can throw a little bit of light out there, because I find if I do the bare littlest thing, like I've printed off my second book to do some editing, and just going through and doing a little bit of work gave my endorphins, my my dopamine hit a little bit. So I felt a little bit better about myself, that I was at least kicking the can forward. And if you could do little things that help you feel a bit better, like some self-care stuff, it's just going to make you improve and be a better person around others as well.
Yeah.
So you can't think of it as something selfish. It's something you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people as well. So there's no harm in trying to feel a bit better.
Take a nice warm bath. That's my advice to everyone.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's the hardest part, especially with getting motivated to do things. It's being good to yourself. And I think that's another thing you learn as perhaps as a stay-at-home parent, is that you really do start to forget yourself and lose yourself into being there for other people and making sure they're always happy. I mean, you heard stories of this from, as I said, going back to that sort of 1950s stereotype, housewives, going through huge depressions and whatnot because they lost who they were once they had kids. And I literally think that every man in every relationship should take a year off with his and let his wife go to work, and if they have that relationship, and see it from her point of view, because I know a lot of guys still who are like, they get home and they're like, well, I worked all day, that she should be doing it. And it's like, that's not how it works, dude.
No.
And stop calling it babysitting. Oh, we got to babysit the kids today. No, you're not babysitting. You're the parent. You're
fathering.
You're parenting. You're not a babysitter. Stop doing yourself any disservice, because don't call it that. Don't be a shitty husband.
I like that.
Or a shitty man. Don't be a shitty man.
Oh, don't be a shitty man.
There's so many shitty men out there. Stop being a shitty man. Yeah, stop it. Stop being a shitty man. Be a good man.
I like that.
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, be a good man, Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
I have Charlie Brown in my name.
Sean.
My middle name is Charles, and my last name is Browning, so I actually have Charlie Brown built in.
No wonder you keep coming up with cartoon character titles and characters.
And struggled with football.
And struggled with football.
It's right
there. And think that grief can be good.
Yeah, good
grief.
Sean, I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. If people want to get your book, or if they want to find out more about you, where should we send them?
Well, you can send them to they can order it on Amazon.
Cool.
They can order it if you have an aversion to Amazon, which I don't blame anybody for that. You can order it in Canada from Chapters, in the States from Barnes and Noble. You can actually, in the States, you can even order it from Walmart. I just found out.
Can you get it on Kindle and stuff?
That's really weird. Yeah, you can get it on Kindle. It's available on Kobo, like all those anywhere that you download books. I'm working on the audiobook right now, so soon that should be out. Or you can go to and I go there anyway. Go to Storywell Publisher. I think it's just storywellpublishing.com.
Okay.
Storywellpublishing.com. And you can check out my book, and soon PK's book, which is called Butterflies in Glass Cases, will be there. You can check out Dave Schmokel, his book too, that's on there. My publisher, he actually goes by the name JD Todd when he writes, and his book is called Covenant Exodus.
Ooh.
And
these are some badass titles for names.
And A Skylark in the Fog is coming out, and Nick's book, his name is escaping me, but it's by Nick DeCroft, and he's an amazing human being, so buy his book as well. But those are all on storywellpublishing.com, so check that out. And that's basically it. My new improved typo-free book is should be the one that you get. You'll know if the squiggly lines between, like, on the chapters, the one way I'll be able to tell is, these little squigglies between that separate an idea in a chapter. He changed them to little light bulbs. So if you got one with the little light bulbs, you got the right one. If it doesn't have little light bulbs, then you may find a few little things. And please forgive me.
I love that.
It wasn't all my fault.
Thanks so much, Sean. Anything else from you, Nick? What do you think?
No, I think this has been a great conversation.
Will you say struggle on with us?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I made it sound like we were all saying it at the same time, but it was one at a time. All right. Thank you, Sean. Struggle on.
Struggle on.
Struggle on.
Yay.
Thank you.
That was episode 68 of the Constant Struggle podcast with Sean Browning. What an episode. What an awesome episode. I was going to say epic episode, but then I was worried I would stumble over my words.
And then crash back 3.5 years to when people were still saying epic a lot.
People are totally still saying epic, are they not? I think people are saying dank now about things that...
No, there's no way dank is back.
Dank is
Come
back.
on.
Especially, anyway, whatever. That episode, Nick, was super dank.
It was epically dank.
It was epically dank. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to check out Sean Browning's website at theseanbrowning.com. You can check out his book and all of his cool stuff.
Where
right
books are
there on our
made.
website. Where books, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and they'll definitely
and
be able to-
purchased. And
yeah, exactly. And if you just want to follow him socially, you can also. I mean, that sounds so creepy.
What?
But
Go to his house and
yeah, go
you
to
know
his
see
house.
where he lives.
Yeah,
No,
I
take
mean,
this
but
out.
go to Twitter. How about Twitter? Just do Twitter
You could go to Twitter. Yep.
at Sean_Browning, and you'll find him there.
And you could, while you're there, you can look
Yeah.
us up too and
Uh-huh.
say hi to us at Struggle Pod.
And our houses.
And
No,
yeah.
wait, no, we're not.
No. We're still social distancing. Let's keep the
Yeah, that's right.
the pod stocking to a minimum.
Nick, you got your vaccine. Way to go.
I did.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast.
Smash that like button.
Smash it so hard. And if you could, you know what would really help? What would help us so much, even though we've been doing this for so long, and we haven't asked this that often before, but I'm going to ask you right now. Please rate and review our podcast on either Podbean or Apple Podcasts. And it'll go so far. It'll help us so much. We got one just recently. We're so excited about it. It's 5 stars.
Woohoo!
5 stars. And
Delicious.
It says that our podcast is soul food. Isn't that nice? Soul food. That comes from
Oh my God. I
struggling-
stand by the delicious then, Brie.
Right?
Excellent.
Yeah, it
Yum.
makes sense. It works. Struggling artist #1 kajillion. Thank you so much for that wonderful little review. We really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Oh, and if you have struggles of your own that you would like to share about,
that was it, Brie. Get in touch with us.
Yeah,
we're all
out.
struggling out there, clearly.
Especially right now, especially during all of this nonsense. If you want to talk about how it's affecting your art, reach out. Let us know. You could reach out to us on our Facebook, The Constant Struggle Podcast. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter at StrugglePod, and Instagram at StrugglePod. Let us know what's going on. Let's chat it out. Let's help each other keep creating during this crazy time. What do you think, Nick?
We need all the creativity we can to cheer us the heck up.
That's right. Help us through this craziness. And also, get a needle if you can. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, that was awesome. Good luck to you with your editing.
Oh, thanks, Brie. I'm going to need all the help I can get, luck-wise.
We'll see you next time then.
Struggle on.
Struggle on. Struggle on. It's true. You only struggle when I struggle with you. That
was
struggle. Struggle on.
It's amazing. Yay.